if you need, I'll just tell you, a guy who's a financial planner has been doing it for over 30 years, but does it from a biblical perspective. I've never heard it presented like that before. That's Joel, and he's also a great friend, so take advantage of that. Let me start by saying this is not legal advice. What I'm going to give you today is readily available, but most people don't know it. And a lot of it's from the state of Arizona, which many states don't offer these things. Be glad you live here when we go through this today. I'll tell you this, I say this from the heart because you know I don't mess around. I'm very transparent. I'll just give it to you straight. From what I've seen throughout practice and in my own life and with so many other people, if you don't do this for your family and share this with other men and women, it's not just men that do this, that need this. If you don't do this, I believe we're being negligent. It's a strong word, but we're being negligent, and the reason is because you will be causing loved ones additional grief, additional stress, additional financial loss, and possibly financial ruin. So my goal today is in 15 minutes, I'm going to take you through this handout that Iron Sharpens Iron was kind enough to print out for you, and I think you can learn an awful lot. And this all comes, as Joel said, from what is given to us in Scripture from the 10 timeless biblical principles. If you look at those, which is on your last page today, number 5, seek wise counsel. Hopefully you're getting some wise counsel today. I hope so. Number 7, plan for the future. The plans of the diligent lead surely to plenty, but those of everyone who is hasty surely to poverty. Number 9, pass on a living legacy, and Joel touched on this. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Number 10, set your estate in order. From 2 Kings, set your house in order, for you will, what does it say? Die. Jim.
I'll tell you, when Joel started, and you also, I think when I came into it, I was thinking, this is for older people. but it really is for all of us, right?
Yeah, and the reason is for everybody. I said to our good friend Damien, who's getting married next Saturday, Damien. And he needs to get that obviously going right away. My daughter and her husband were married just 2 years ago. They need to have this. I was talking to our friends Austin and over here and Alex. Everybody needs it because some people just think it's only for if you have assets, if you have property. That's not at all the case. Basically, and I'll probably repeat myself a few times, if you don't do this, the state is going to make the decisions for you. Medically, where your property goes, it's a mess. So let's look at page 1. And let me tell you about this handout. You'll notice many, many things on the handout on the next to last page have lines under them. For those of you that are computer savvy, page 4 says additional resources. I'm going to go over every one of those with you. But what those lines mean through this is those are computer links. So I compiled this for you so that when you receive this today on your email at about noon to 2, after Danny does such a marvelous job of editing, which he does every week. Let's hear it for Danny, guys. He does a wonderful job. Come on. So every one of these documents, you'll see under the video, you'll see another link to this document that you have in your hands now. Okay? So you'll be able to click all those links, and all these forms are going to pop up right for you. You'll have everything you need. The only form that you don't have here is a living trust, and I'll explain that for you in a couple minutes. So let's look at this. Just like Joel said, from page 1, if you were to die today, is your family protected? Do they know where all your important documents, information, and financial accounts are? Who can raise their hand and say their family knows where every single thing they should know is no? Maybe 10. 10 out of 70. Good for you. Do they know your health care and financial wishes if you can't make them yourself? Do you even have a simple or a living will? What's the difference? Does everybody know what the difference is? Probably not. That's why we're here today. Do you want the government to decide any of these things for you? Do you want the government to decide anything for you? No. Couldn't help myself, guys. Couldn't help myself, Tom. I just couldn't help myself. So here's some great articles. The first one. Articles on what to do when a loved one dies. This, when you hit that link right in the middle of the page, that'll bring you to many, many sources. The first one's an AARP, but it's a checklist. Everybody needs excellent checklists of what to do when this thing happens. And it's not just if you die or a friend dies, their family. It's if you get sick also, or just can't make decisions. When you click that, you'll have a complete checklist. If you have a checklist, you know what you have to get done and accomplish. I suggest you put these things in a box or in binders in a place where you're, preferably in a fireproof safe, and your family knows where they are so they can get to it, and you go over it with them. I have that, but I also have a file. My wife, we've been joking about it for years. It's called my If I Croak file. And she doesn't think it's funny, but I thought it was. But it says right on the middle of the computer, she can't miss it. It says If I Croak. She can double click that. Everything is there, especially the letter of instruction that this will talk about. Let's go to the next two. These are really important. Two great checklists to follow. The first one is from a guy I follow all the time, a Christian guy. His name is Sam. It's called Financial Samurai, and he has what's called the death file. Now, I know that sounds kind of harsh, but it's an amazing article. Remember, fellas, knowledge is power. This handout is a great tool. It's a great asset, but only if you use it. If you don't use it, it's wasted. So what's a death file? And you'll see this when you open and read his great article. A death file is a binder, folder, spreadsheet, or other documents that contains all the information a loved one would need in the event of your incapacity or passing. It can be physical or digital, and it could be as simple as one piece of paper or as lengthy as a book. So here's some examples of critical items that should be on a death file. Last will and testament, trust documents, beneficiary designations, estate attorney contact information, tax accountant contact information, instructions on where to access your filed tax returns. Who knows where to find your tax returns now if you need them? Life insurance policy account numbers, prepaid funeral and burial contracts, burial instructions, deeds, list of all financial accounts, retirement plans, credit cards, insurance, loans, investments, account information for all other bills, utilities, reference list of doctors, medications, passwords for your computers, keys, where your safes are. Just those things I mentioned. How many of you have knowledge or someone who is going to take care of things when you're not able to do it? How many of them have all those things? Again, less than 10 this time. Now, the next checklist under Financial Samurai is done by a really good friend. He's a tax attorney, and he is so incredibly thorough. His name is Chaz Schaefer. When you open that list, the second one, it has a lot more than even this first one did. So it's just great information. I'm very, very grateful to Chaz for that. And he lives in Tucson. He watches ISI every week, so he knows all about you guys. And he even knows that our good friend Larry Martin's back with us today. Larry out of the hospital. Good to see you, Larry. Let's hear it for Larry. Larry's been through an awful lot, and he said he really felt the presence of God in that week. So a lot of guys were praying for him. Anyway, Chaz's is all one page, but it's tremendous. The list of what he says what he would consider in a death file. So you look at these things, you put them together, and you decide what you're going to do. All right, so at the bottom of page 1, I'm going to talk now about the complete life care planning packet that's offered by the state of Arizona. So let's go to page 2. What is life care planning and why is it important? I'll read just a little bit of it, but I encourage you to read all this in depth. Life care planning is the process of deciding your medical wishes and who you want to carry them out if you can't do it. These documents in this packet are meant for you to express your wishes so you get the treatment you want if you can't communicate it. It's an important task for all of us, as Jim said, whether you're young or old, healthy or facing challenges. No one knows what tomorrow's going to bring. How many of you in the last couple of years have gone through unexpected things you never thought was going to happen to you? Health, financial, otherwise. All right, let me jump down. The state of Arizona offers these forms to you because they want you to know that you have access to things that are in line with Arizona law. Now, one of the questions people ask all the time to me is, okay, I have my estate plan. It was done in Texas. Is it good here in Arizona? General rule is everything's good here unless it's against Arizona law. That's the general rule, just so you know that. But you always are going to want to update those documents. You might have someone who's your power of attorney that is no longer alive. So you always have to go back and look at your documents and update them. So with these forms that you're going to be able to download, if you download them, they're in what's called Adobe format. You don't have to be a computer genius. You can print them out, you can handwrite them, and then get them notarized or witnessed. I'll explain that to you. But if you don't want to do that, you can fill them out right on the computer in Adobe, save them to a file right there, because you should create a digital file of everything you have. You should scan everything you have, and I'll tell you why in just a couple of minutes, but everything you have should either be in the cloud or on a flash drive also, in addition to your hard drive, so your family or whoever needs it can get it, if they can't for some reason find your written documents or can't get into your house. So I think we're very blessed to be in Arizona. Let's go to the bottom of the page, talking with others about your wishes. You know, if you don't know who to use for these things, talk to your healthcare agent, the person you select to make healthcare decisions for you. They have to be of like mind with you. Give you an example. Let's say you have 2 kids, and one kid, you told the child, if I'm in a persistent vegetative state I can't think for myself, I don't want to be on life support. And the other child says, I'm not going to have them unplug you. I want you alive as long as you can be. I believe in medical science. Maybe they don't have the spiritual convictions you have. You have to have your health care attorney acting in fact for you, who understands your wishes and will carry them out. That's critical. I've seen so many times children fighting over the parents' care, in addition to fighting over the finances, right? So talk to healthcare agents, talk to your spouse, children, other relatives, close friends, doctor, clergy person, and others to decide who you want to use. Now let's go to page 3. These are the documents included in the packet. When you click it, these are all provided by the state, and they're fantastic documents. You have the checklist. The first one is the healthcare power of attorney. You select a person to make future medical decisions for you if you're too ill to communicate it. And it'll also give you a place to put an alternate in case the first person's not available. Now, a living will, most people aren't familiar with this and how it differs from a health care power of attorney. The living will allows you to list out the type of medical treatments you do or do not want, specifically. For instance, I want pain medication, but I don't want nutrition if I'm in a persistent vegetative state. You can say exactly what you want in the living will, and it should go along with the health care power of attorney so your agent can carry it out and knows your wishes. Obviously, your agent and your family or whatever should have copies of these documents. Now, Arizona offers something very interesting, the mental health care power of attorney. It's basically like the normal health care power of attorney, but specifically for mental condition. And normally in order to do that, I believe this document says you would either have to have a psychiatrist or a neurologist certify that you were incapacitated from a medical situation. Up in the healthcare power of attorney, again, one thing I neglected to tell you is it also offers you a couple spaces to say what you want in terms of when you pass away as far as your burial situation, if you want to be cremated, if you want to have an autopsy, if you want organ donation. But that's one place to do it, but I'm going to show you another place as well. Let's go down to the pre-hospital medical care directive. It's commonly known as a DNR, do not resuscitate in Arizona. It has to be on an orange sheet of paper. And when you print these forms out, it'll show you an orange sheet of paper. If you don't have the orange paper, take that first page later and go to Office Max or something and have it printed on orange paper for you. But that means when EMT, other responders come, you say I have a DNR, or you go in the hospital, I told them I had a DNR, they're not going to resuscitate me. Otherwise, they're going to keep you alive. And my father he had Alzheimer's and he had a stroke. And at the time, my sisters were unable to make the decision when the doctor said we should probably go ahead and unplug him. He lived for 4 years basically in a coma. He did not have a DNR. Yeah, so when we're talking now about witnessing and notarizing, tell yourself almost every document should be notarized, because notarized means that it was certified by someone not related to you, not taking anything under your will, or it has nothing to do basically with you, but it's saying it's you. Because in the state of Arizona, they do offer, if you can't get to a notary or can't afford a notary, you can actually just have 2 witnesses who are over 18, aren't taking anything, for instance, under your will. But you never want to take the chance of a court throwing something out because maybe they don't believe who that person is, or you made up the witnesses. It happens all the time. So whenever possible, try to use a notary. We're very blessed now, especially in the age of COVID. Notaries will come to your house for like $25, $30. You don't have to go to a bank, or you don't have to do any of those things. Speaking of banks almost no longer offer safe deposit boxes anymore. So your best bet is fireproof safes in your house. All right, let's go to the page 4, the important stuff. And I'm going to breeze you through this pretty quick. Again, most of this work, guys, is going to be on your own. because all the information you need, all the forms are here. Let's start with number 2. What is probate? How many of you heard the word probate before? It's a nightmare. Thank you, Tom. Yeah, probate is basically if your property doesn't pass, and I'm going to explain this through something like joint tenancy or something like that, or you don't have a living trust, it's going to have to go through the court system. You're going to have to fill out lots of paperwork, probably get an attorney. It's going to cost a lot of money, and it can take 6 months to 2 years, California even longer. And here, Maricopa County is growing so fast, the court system's getting bogged down. So how do you avoid going through probate? There's several ways. One is a living trust. That's at the top. Now, I didn't give you living trust forms because it's a little bit more complicated, but I'm going to tell you a place that can do that for you very inexpensively. A living trust is basically a holding vehicle, I call it, where you are, while you're alive, you're still making your decisions. But when you pass away, let's say you're married, your wife could then be the trustee instead of you. And after that, it could pass to your children. But just by having a living trust, it's not going to go through probate. But anything held in that trust has to be titled in the name of the trust. So investment accounts, things like that. You hold in the name of the trust. I personally have my house in the name of my trust because most people title their houses whatever the title company tells them. How many of you guys today know how your house is titled? Okay, less than half. So let's say your house is held in joint tenancy, which means if one of you dies, it then goes to the other person, right? Joint tenancy with the rights of survivorship, it's called. What happens if you're driving in your car with your wife and you both are killed, unfortunately, at the same time? And you don't have a living trust? Probate. And it could take years for that house to be dispersed, and it's not going to be dispersed oftentimes to who you want it to and in the order you want it to. So a living trust is very valuable to have, but you need a certain amount of assets, I think, to really do a living trust. And obviously it's a little more expensive. Let's talk about Arizona also general power of attorney forms. I have a sample here, and you have 2 links for those. See, they give you everything, guys. It's a breeze, putting lawyers out of business. So first of all, you have a general regular power of attorney, which means it has a beginning and an end date. Or you have a durable, meaning longer lasting, and it only ends upon the principal, the person who's making it out, death, or he cancels it, revocation. And this form's pretty interesting because, as Joel was talking about, there are 4 boxes on it. You can check the box for personal finances, and it has a big description. So just this one form, when I got back from the hospital, I made sure I had this single form in addition to the others. I did one for my son, did one for my daughter, and one for my wife to all be able to make those decisions. Finances, real property, meaning like real estate, personal property, non-real estate, guitars, your t-shirt collection, things like that. Business transactions, you'll check that box. To do and perform every and all acts required. And then you check the one and you get it notarized. So this is an amazing form. If you don't do anything else this afternoon, do this form. And personally, I think the power of attorneys for healthcare are the most important, more than property. Just because personal experience, I can tell you if you're in a hospital, and I'll just tell you, when I had COVID this summer, the first week or so, you lose a lot of memory. Can't remember your phone number. You can't remember when they're asking you, do you want to be intubated or do you want to be ventilated? You don't even remember what those words mean. So fortunately, I had all these documents, but I forgot to give my daughter my password in the cloud. But when I finally, she figured it out, she was able to get every document, give it to the hospital. They knew exactly what I wanted done and what I didn't. The problem is, normally you think, oh, well, your wife or a loved one would make those decisions if you had named that. My wife had COVID also at the same time, and she lost her memory for like 10 days also. I hate to say this is all about risk analysis. It's all about the what-if syndrome. You know, we pray to God these things don't happen to us, but they do, and you have to be prepared. And I know some of you guys in here have been through this with loved ones that were severely ill and passed away, and you went through all this. And maybe you had some of these documents, maybe you didn't. The only document I'm not giving you that you really need is the living trust, but I'm going to give you a source that does. Joel. Is it on?
Test. Yep. So Ted talked a little, great talk. 1 minute just to think about is beneficiary designations on all your IRAs, all of your qualified plans. Make sure you have the contingency set up right. They can get a little complicated, not giving you any advice about that here. But the other one, Ted mentioned it, one of the biggest things you can do, have one master list. All you have to, everything you've got, every bank account, just where it is. Chase Bank, here's the account number. Make sure to put the account number in. But where everything is, if your family has a list of just that, at least they have a trail they can, let's say you do everything and you drop dead tomorrow, you have a trail that they can follow. They need that. I'm working through that with a grieving spouse right now, and it is difficult because she keeps getting things in the mail and keeps getting things by his email, and I don't even know what this is. It's really important. The other thing, every one of your bills, every one, where it comes from, how much it is, so it can be easily identified. A master list of everything and know where it is. Don't let criminals get it, though, so be careful. LastPass.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Password manager. Right.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I use LastPass myself. That's excellent advice. You know, just how far do you want to go? How far will you go? Give up one day at golf to get it done.
Hold on to the mic in case you have other additions. Again, I'm just giving you a basic overview, guys. One thing we talked about, any retirement accounts bypass probate. Retirement accounts don't even have to be listed, from my knowledge, in your living trust, if you have a living trust. It bypasses that. But he's talking about beneficiaries. So if you have an account, who you want to get that if you're not, when we pass away or you're incapacitated, and it passes to them. But then you need a contingent beneficiary, means what if they've already passed away? You need someone else listed. That's what Joel was referring to. Okay?
You could go per stirpies, but we won't go that far.
That's a little more in depth. Yeah.
But and then also talk to the people that you designate, and maybe have 2, 3, 4 alternates. Seriously, people that are local, people that aren't. They have to be people you trust. But like somebody could be, someone's going to make healthcare decisions for you, one of your kids, and one wants to hold the plug in, the other one wants to yank the plug out. And that can change over time. Make sure that your plug puller is the right person. And if those people, you don't have a great relationship anymore, take them off and make sure to talk to them that they know that that's their job.
Yep. And if they're not willing to do what your wishes are, they're the wrong person. Yeah, you have to make sure, like we said earlier, that they comply with the laws of Arizona. Otherwise, that particular provision won't be upheld. Let's talk about the next one. You have on here a free Arizona living will form. This is another one. In addition to the state one, this was given by a friend who handles a lot of people. We refer to her. She has a wonderful collaborative family law practice, Jennifer Mosier. That's a living will again, which is stating your wishes for your health care if you can't do it yourself. Now the next one is important. This is a last will and testament form. This is simply what we call simple will for property. And if you don't do anything else, you should have a will. Even the young guys should definitely have a will, because you never know if you write this 10 years later, if you haven't done anything else, but you come in a lot of assets, you're going to want to have set up who you wanted to give your property to. So, yeah, Mark, that's the unfortunate thing. I remember once I was on an airplane and it was real choppy. We thought we were going down, so I started writing a holographic will, which is a handwritten will, which is legal to do. And I had 2 people next to me sign it that I didn't know. It was legal. So, but anyway, the point is, if you really have hardly any assets at all, I think a simple will is not going to get the job done for you, as you guys have found out, Tom. Right, and I'm going to show you in just a minute. For instance, I had complicated financial power of attorney where I had like 20 boxes to check. So it's much more complete than what the general was, even though it listed lots of things on it.
And that is true. So the more complete it is, the better. I've seen powers of attorney that are very short and simple. Really, you want one, and I'm not giving legal advice here, but generally you want one that is very specific. It names out all of the types of activities, all the types of accounts that can be managed, very detailed. but still there's institutions that will not take it. And you think you can just walk into the bank, hey, dad died yesterday, I'm walking in with this paper. There's still even if you have it all set up, there's still a lot of work for your family to do.
And one of the things you'll see on your checklist in the beginning from page 1, one of the first things you're going to have to do if it's a death is you're going to have to get certified copies from the coroner of the death certificate. That's going to have to be used for everything, for Social Security, for banks, for everybody. They're going to want to see that. I don't want to take much of your time. Let's move to final arrangements, middle of page 4. In addition to the few that were offered on the healthcare power of attorney, final arrangements. So if you were to pass away today, does your family know, did you want to be cremated? Did you want to be buried? Where did you want to be buried? Do you want a ceremony before? Do you want a ceremony after? Do you want to have a ceremony where you're going to be buried? What kind of music do you want? Who do you want to speak at the funeral or memorial service? I told my wife I don't want any of it. That's just me. Cremate me and I'm done. I'm going to be with the Lord anyway, so it doesn't matter. But final arrangements, if you click that, it's a complete checklist I've put together for you of all those questions I just mentioned that I think you'll want to have done. And that doesn't even have to be notarized or witnessed. Ethical will, let's talk about that for just a second. Joel made reference to it, very, very important. In many ways, I consider the ethical will or a legacy will more important than anything else. It tells your posterity, the people that come after you, your great-great-grandchildren that you don't even know now, what you stood for, what you believed in. If it was Jesus Christ, you talk about that. If it's what you felt about the state of our country and what you've been through, how you grew up, what you learned, this is a place to do that. Now, in the old days, you would just handwrite this or type it out. There's great examples of them on this link. But nowadays, you can video it. And then they get to see you and hear you. I can't stress strongly enough how important an ethical will is. Okay?
Hey, Ted,
Yes.
did I tell you about doing this, the recordings? So I've done this for years. I did this with, for instance, my mother. I sat with her and it's, it's very easy to do, but I got her to tell her life story.
Yep.
Took about 45 to 50 minutes. I should have probably done it about 7 years earlier, but she still did a great job. And at the end, I asked her, if you died tomorrow, what would you want us to do? And she just went through this whole thing. Well, just get dressed up nice, have a nice church party. I want you to be happy. I played that at her memorial, and it was powerful. Her words telling us what she wanted us to do. Very powerful.
Yeah.
Record it.
The next one, Kramer Legacy Documents. This is an outfit that a lot of us get who live on this side of town. You'll get these ads from them, but they're basically a paralegal outfit. They have a package for $699. I talked to them yesterday. They do all this for you, including a living trust. Everything. They'll send you, you'll fill out all these forms, all the same kind of forms that I talked about here, but it includes a living trust for only $700. If you were to do that entire package with attorneys, you're looking anywhere from $1,500 to $4,000 or $5,000. So anyway, that's just an option to get it done quick and fast. And then the last one is just a great article I came across this week, How to Avoid Financial Fraud and Investment Ruin. It's really, really good. So again, I want to thank Joel for being up here with us. Again, guys, these are tools. I hope you take this seriously because, and pass this on. When you get the video today, pass that video on to other people, your brothers, your sisters, your friends, so that they're not putting their loved ones in jeopardy either. So yeah, that's a very inexpensive way to do it. But it's certainly not if your estate is more complicated. I mean, it'll do final arrangements, it'll do power of attorney, but if your estate's more complicated, I think you need someone, especially for a living trust, that's more well suited to you. Okay, because it could cost you a lot of money later, especially from tax perspectives. Someone like Joel's an expert in life insurance and things like that, and how it can benefit your estate. Okay, and so I can do one or two questions, then I want to get you in your small groups because we got some great questions. Yeah, and that's the whole point. It's not fun talking about death. It's not fun talking about getting older or having any. You can be young and have a serious illness, right? But the point is, once you get this done, and you can do this whole package in a matter of hours, the estate forms. But once you get it done, you've done your job as the head of the household, as a Christian, according to the biblical principles Joel gave us, and you have a great sense of relief once your documents were done. One more, Andrew. Sure. Just tell yourself, personally, I would notarize everything. But the two that don't need it is the final arrangements, as far as I know, and a will, a simple will. Can I have just two witnesses, not related, over 18, and not taking anything under the will? Okay? So just everything else should be notarized as far as I know. Okay? That's it, guys. So today, small groups, Larry Trigg, Scott Lehman, and Mark Sims will make sure you have a leader. Please no more than 5 in the group today. We have some great questions up here for you, and it's been an honor to do this for you. Have a great day, guys.